This is the On the Pony Express podcast, hosted by Billy Embody, brought to you by Epoch Estate Wines. Walking strong on the Pony Express, a weekly segment with SMU alum, owner, vintner of Epoch Estate Wines, Bill Armstrong. Epoch Estate Wines, world-class wines from Paso Robles wine country. Learn more, Epoch, E-P-O-C-H, epochwines.com. And now your host. Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Well, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Walking Strong with Bill Armstrong.
Oh, my podcast partner. Here we go.
I'm Billy Embody. We're live at Epoch Estate Wines with a crowd here as well.
We got a beautiful crowd. We got a beautiful crowd at Epoch. I mean, I just absolutely love sharing my wines and my winery with all my friends. And I can't thank you all enough for coming because this really is spectacular. And a big weekend, man.
Huge weekend.
I mean, it's so much fun. We're all these people, most of these people they traveled from Texas to be here. So we're in a beautiful town called Paso Robles, which is exactly halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And where we're located right here, specifically at the winery, we're about, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 miles from the ocean. So it's just a beautiful spot. It looks a lot like Tuscany. You would never believe this is in the United States. It's kind of undiscovered, but wine people really get how the wines here are really, really fantastic. And I'm just love sharing it with all y'all. And y'all that are watching this podcast are dozens of fans. You need to come try to make it here. It's an easy flight from Dallas. Just fly into San Luis Obispo, and then you're here. And it's just, this will remind you of what Napa was like back in, I don't know, late 60s, early 70s. I mean, it's just tremendous. All right, we got a big week. We got a big week. We had a big game.
Coming off the bye,
coming
and
off
the record is?
We're 5-1, baby. 5-1.
Yeah.
We are halfway through the season.
It has flown by way too fast,
I
first of all.
cannot believe we're halfway through the season because this has been so much fun. And I didn't know what to think coming into this year. Before we get into the football, can I just talk a little bit more about Epoch? Just a little bit more.
Of course.
So this building that y'all are in right now, I'm unbelievably proud of this building because Architectural Digest had an article out a few years ago, and it rated this architectural design the number 2 winery design in the world over the last 50 years.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Very cool. Yeah. So this winery was in 1882 was built, and then it was the oldest winery in the Central Coast, and it became semi-famous for everybody in the region. Everybody knew to come to. They called it York Mountain in those days. Everybody would go to York Mountain. It went through a number of various hands. And then there was an earthquake in 2003. The whole building kind of collapsed on itself. It sat here. Bats occupied it, snakes, rats. It was nasty. And the guy that owned it went into bankruptcy, and so I bought it out of bankruptcy, and we kind of rebuilt this place brick by brick. So and cool. I was telling somebody earlier, it's the only cost overrun in history with an unlimited budget.
Yeah.
So,
you got it right, I think.
But it's really spectacular. Let me give you a kind of a fun history lesson. If you watched the podcast last week, I talked about Stanford. So we're going to Stanford tomorrow.
Yes.
So we're going to play Stanford. We have not played Stanford since the 1936 Rose Bowl. 88 years since SMU played Stanford. And it was a slugfest, offensive battle. Stanford won 7-0.
Yeah, shootout.
It was a shootout.
Yeah.
We had 6 interceptions, and they beat us 7-0. Anyway, so we go back to Stanford tomorrow. There's actually a tie between my winery and Stanford that I like to share with people. As you saw on the podcast, it was founded by Leland Stanford. It's called Leland Stanford Junior University. It was founded in 1885, and the first class was in 1891. And the very first enrollee at Stanford was Herbert Hoover.
Very cool.
Then to be president, Herbert Hoover. And so he was at school, and he came from nothing. He was actually a geologist, Liz. So Herbert Hoover was a geology major, just like my wife and I. And he was trying to make some money on the side. So the most famous musician, performer in the world in that time was a guy named Ignacy Paderewski. He was a Polish guy, and we bought his property in Paso Robles because he made grapes up here. And so Paderewski was this guy that when he ran across the country and performed, he had 4 train cars with Steinway pianos and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Herbert Hoover was really an entrepreneurial kid. And so he looked on the schedule and he goes to his couple of buddies, he says, Paderewski's going to be here, in the spring. And let's book him for a concert. And so let's get him. And so they did. Paderewski agreed to it, to give a concert at Stanford University. And they agreed to pay him, in today's dollars, $75,000. It was an off night for him because Paderewski was the most famous musician in the world at that time. And Herbert Hoover failed to look at the schedule of the school, and it turns out he booked him on Easter weekend.
Oh.
And in those days, Palo Alto had nobody living in it except for students. And so Easter weekend came and everybody left. And so Paderewski he was in San Francisco, he drives up on the however he got there, the train or horse and buggy or something. And he shows up, and Herbert Hoover was sitting there, and they sold every ticket they could sell, but there was nobody in town.
Dozens of fans.
Like it was like our podcast.
Yeah.
It was like our podcast, and Herbert Hoover came to the maestro Paderewski and said, "I'm so sorry, but I can't pay you what I promised you I would pay you." And Paderewski says, "Hey, son, it's fine, no big deal. Tell you what, why don't you pay the people that came to help the venue, and pay for the venue, of course, and I'm not taking any money, and this is just a good lesson for you." And anyway, fast forward 20 years, Hoover is now in politics, and he is the food czar of the U.S., and he was basically keeping the people of Eastern Europe alive. And by this time, Paderewski is no longer a musician, but he was now the prime minister of Poland. Wow. And so the food czar of the United States, which is Herbert Hoover, was keeping the people of Poland alive by giving them all this food. And Paderewski went to Washington to thank him for keeping the people alive. And Herbert Hoover said, "You know what? I'm just paying it forward because you paid it to me back in the day." Paderewski's like going, "I don't remember you at all."
There's a lot of grapes to go.
And he goes, "I don't remember you at all." But he says, "Hey, for what you did for me, I am now doing for the Polish people."
That is so
There
cool.
we go. There's your pay. Isn't that a great story? So there's my Stanford story for anybody who likes history. And now let's talk about football. You want to?
Yeah.
Okay, halfway through the season. And
One win away.
we're 5-1. We're a game away from being bowl eligible.
Yes.
Which is really amazing. I'm really hoping that tomorrow at 8 o'clock Pacific time we can say we're now bowl eligible. Because I think we're going to beat Stanford. I don't know.
Yep.
With all due respect to Stanford, I mean they're having an off year.
Yeah, they're
having an
struggling
off
right
year.
now.
They're struggling right now. But you never want to say. I mean, look at the games every week. Something strange happens.
Yeah. Alabama Vandy.
Alabama Vandy.
Syracuse's only loss this year is to Stanford. That was a month ago, but it just goes to show you how quickly things can change in college football. But one thing I'll say going into the game, we might as well say it now. We could say it next week, but do you think there were more fans at that concert back in the day, or?
I actually a couple of the transfers that are at SMU that were at Stanford, Jonathan McGill specifically, he said you'd look up in the stands at a Stanford crowd and there'd be like hundreds of people, and they all had an iPad.
They're basically sponsored, I think. But,
they're really good fans when they win.
Yeah.
When you have a John Elway there, they're great. When you have a Christian McCaffrey there, they're great.
Andrew Luck.
And Andrew Luck, they're great. But I have heard that they're fickle.
Yeah.
So we should all have 50-yard line seats tomorrow. Yeah. Is what I'm saying. So since we're not talking about a game specifically other than that Stanford game, let's talk about our surprises at midseason.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Let's do it.
Okay. Let me talk about the things that I'm super surprised about. I underestimated how important the Gary Weber end zone complex would be.
Yeah.
It is spectacular. I mean, the sound system and the way we look on television, and now it helps the recruiting for Rhett and his team. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing.
The training table, all the recovery, the Armstrong
everything.
Wellness Center,
Spa,
and
wellness center.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is completely different than it's ever been at SMU since the days that Liz and I were there in the early '80s, the Pony Express era, is the game time experience.
Yeah.
Is like night and day.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is very near and dear to Liz's and my heart is the Spirit Squad. And Mary Crow, you're here, and what you and Carrie have done, the SMU Spirit Squad is, without a doubt, probably top 10 in the country, maybe top 5. And you've done that in 2 short years. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, what you have done. And I told you all on one of our previous podcasts about how I found Mary. It's a really fun story. That's probably episode 6 or 7 of Walking Strong.
Yeah, dogging Sunny Dykes or whatever. Yeah.
And you want to dog Sunny Dykes already?
Whoa.
Because I'm happy to dog Sunny Dykes.
Do a little bait out there and see what I can get back. Yeah.
So what else has been like a surprise for me? I was expecting coming into the ACC, we're stepping up from the American Conference to the ACC, and I thought it would be a bigger step up. We actually are competing really well. They warned us that the lines in the ACC, defense and offensive line, were way different. But what Rhett and the staff have put together, I mean, we are super competitive, and it is just really, really amazing that, I mean, we beat Louisville.
Yeah.
I mean, we beat
Florida State, TCU.
Florida State, TCU, and we beat them like badly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that my expectations for the season have been exceeded.
And it's a combination of the coaching staff making changes after the early season kind of, feeling out process. But they felt like they had guys at each position that can get the job done. It was a matter of finding the right 5 on the O-line, seeing that defensive line come together and play as one, which is kind of an art in a sense at times.
It is. Look at how bad our offensive line was early. But now look at us.
And running the football is the biggest piece of this puzzle for SMU. And we'll talk about Kevin and what he's done at quarterback. But when you're able to run the football like they were from the get-go this year, they've been running the ball really well. You can control the time of possession. You can do all of those things, and that travels on the road just like playing great defense, which they've done.
Great point. And I don't normally think of a Rhett Lashley team being a running deal, but he really emphasizes that.
Yeah.
He gets it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a nice segue. What is your player of the year so far?
Ooh.
Okay, let me ask you 2 questions. What is your player of the year so far? And who is your surprise player of the year so far?
So my player of the year so far, and this one might be a bit of a surprise, but I'm going to go with Kobe Wilson. And Kobe Wilson has been playing at all sorts of different levels in terms of playmaking. He's running down guys. He's playing technically sound. He had the interception return, which if you haven't seen it, take the 25 seconds and watch it.
That's my play of the year. That's my play of
100%.
the year. 100%.
And that was just such an exclamation point on a historic, unbelievable night in Ford. And I know Kobe is probably one of the coolest stories on this team too, because of him kind of being the last ad last year. He came in fall camp. He wasn't even with the team over the course of the summer before they.
What? I didn't know that.
Yep. He came in fall camp from Temple as kind of a late ad, and he's now a captain, and he's playing his ass off. First of all,
where's he from? What's his hometown? Ooh. He came from Temple. Georgia. I should know that.
Oh, he's from Snellville, right? I think
Look
so. At
you. Come on.
Yeah, I know. I could have made a couple of comments about the 1935 Stanford game, but we'll leave that on another podcast. Oh, there we go. I teed it up for you.
So okay,
he's my player of the year.
What's your
player of the year?
Okay, my player of the year is, I'm going to have to go with Kevin Jennings.
Yes.
KJ, the school, the team, he has that silent assassin, smiling assassin kind of demeanor.
Yeah.
Nothing, he's unflappable. I didn't appreciate how unflappable he was until the American Conference Championship game last year, when on the first play from scrimmage, the Tulane guy knocks the ball out of his hands and almost basically scores a touchdown on the first play of the game. And KJ, no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
I think he, on the sidelines and in the huddle, I think the team reacts to that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just chill. But he's an assassin.
Yeah, and he'll make you pay if you give him opportunities to. And he's tightened up that ball security a little bit, which he was running a little crazy with it early in the year. But the thing about him, he's grown in that confidence. And as you heard live at the Louisville press conference, talking about his confidence, and Elijah Roberts was saying how Kevin started talking some noise during last game too, which he doesn't say much to begin with.
I know it.
But I knew he was in a really good headspace when he was running out of bounds against Florida State, and he kind of gave it a little wave to the Florida State defender. There's a really good picture of it that I'll have to show you. But he's running out of bounds, and he just gave it, hey, I see you. I'm right here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just mid-play. It was kind of interesting. So
he's
been playing at an elite level just overall, and all the things that he's doing.
Well, I'm going to say something really bold, and that is, if he keeps putting up numbers like he did last 2 weeks ago, he might be a Heisman.
Dark horse, yeah.
Dark horse.
Yeah.
Because you don't throw 290 yards and then run for 120 or whatever he did. I mean, it was unbelievable numbers. Yep. And like you said, he's, as far as quarterback powers, he's number 3 in the country.
He's number one in the ACC in passer efficiency in conference games so far. So 2 for SMU, and then over the last 4 weeks of college football, he's got the number 1 offensive grade from Pro Football Focus across all Power 4 players. So that includes the Boise State kid who's playing really well at running back, John T. I mean, like the names he's above is pretty unbelievable.
It's a big fucking deal. I mean, let's get right down to it. I mean, it is a big fucking deal.
When you have a quarterback like that, it changes your entire
really
season.
Okay, my surprise player of the year so far, Brashard Smith.
Yeah, like that.
I mean, the guy is unbelievable, and he's tough as nails.
Yeah, he is.
He is tough as nails. His ability to zig and zag at full speed is ridiculous. And the idea that we could get him out of Miami, because they were using him as a running back or as a kick returner.
Yeah.
And
wide receiver. Yep.
And now he's here just doing all that he's doing. Yeah. It's amazing. So that's my surprise player of the year. Who's yours?
Surprise player of the year for me is probably Brandon Crosley, and he moved out to corner. And I thought a lot about this, and I told you somebody else on the text. I think I went with Brashard or KJ, but I was thinking about it more and more. I really liked Brashard from the get-go, and he's built different. I mean, he's tough. It was just a matter of, okay, will this actually translate? And then I'm not surprised by KJ. He's just a stud. And when you look at Brandon Crosley, he moves out to outside corner after playing nickel last year. He gets basically beat out, overtaken. He doesn't, as much as B. Cross likes to talk a little bit, he just puts his head down and goes to work, relearns the outside corner spot. And if you look up and down this team, 26, 27 seniors on it, it's hard to find surprises. You need a breakout player.
Okay.
You look at the offensive line, they've got a bunch of guys who are back. Defensive line, they were brought in to do the job that they're doing. Linebackers are back. Safeties are all back. Wide receivers are back. I mean, you got to go with somebody who's changed. And if it's not Brashard, it's Brandon Crosley.
And he is a serious shit talker. Isn't he, Crosley is? It's just fabulous.
Yeah. Well, after his playing career, you might want to hire him to talk a little noise about somebody else.
Wachovia is a great trash talker as well.
Yep.
So, all right, that's awesome. Okay, so, I mean, we could literally go through. I could have picked RJ. I could have picked Elijah Roberts, Isaiah Wachovia.
Yeah. Colin Rogers has been a stud.
Colin Rogers has been fantastic. I mean, there's been so many guys. So it was difficult for me to pick that. Okay, we have 6 games left. And we're going into kind of the academic part of the season. Yeah. We have Stanford, Duke, UVA, still coming up. Mm-hmm. So it's the ACT schools, right? I mean, so We've got Stanford on the road, UVA on the road, Duke on the road, and then we have Pitt at home, Boston College at home, and
Calgorithm.
Calgorithm.
Yeah, you like that?
What the fuck is that?
Just wait till they find out about this podcast. Wait till Cal Twitter finds out about this podcast.
Bring it, Cal. I'm just like, all I'm saying, yes.
Yeah.
It's good.
All of your woke talk is going to be
it's
wrong.
it's the communists versus the capitalists. Let's get rid of it.
Hey, we're off and running. Yeah. Hey, they lean into it. I'm telling you, they put the AI. I love Cal Twitter. I think I've told you, they put the little Russian comrade hat on the bear.
Dig it.
And they bring woke to Doak Campbell Stadium, FSU, even though they lost.
I love
but
it. Like,
yeah.
But that is like almost like a penance to go to school, Cal. Seriously? Are you kidding me?
Not for me.
I mean, I could probably go off on Cal, but you know what? I'd rather go off on TCU. Can we just do that real quickly? Yeah.
That's why they're all here.
So my biggest surprise of the year is how fast the TCU fans turned on Sonny Dykes. And all I gotta say is like, hell yeah to that. You're just like,
You were leading the way. You're like dozens of people behind you, and all of a sudden there's hundreds of thousands.
Wow. I mean, he's going to be, but they're going to have to pay him a lot to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But I think he's already got his
realtor in Cabo fired up.
No, he's got his lounge chair with his fat ass to sit on the beach in Cabo. So I think that's coming. But I was also very surprised. I'm actually surprised by how bad Florida State is.
Yeah, they're a train wreck this year.
Shocking, because they almost won the national championship last year, and they're 1-5. Is that what they are? 1-4, 1-5.
Yeah, it's awful.
And then I got to say, Vanderbilt, love it that they're becoming a school.
Yeah,
They're becoming a
crazy.
team.
Yeah.
I love it.
And Vandy, they did cancel this year. They took a trip to Nashville away from us, which is I know Nashville's fun.
They probably would have now thought we should have played SMU.
Yeah, it would have been a boost to somebody's strength of schedule.
It would have been.
So,
yeah.
And that also goes to show sometimes people are so quick to pull the trigger and make a change.
Yep.
And sometimes you do have to leave things in place and let staffs go to work, especially in places that are maybe hard to win, like Vanderbilt. I mean, Clark Leah went there. He's got a bunch of guys who are invested in it.
Yeah.
So they're reaping some of the benefits from that, and hey,
I love
it's good for college football.
Well, the SEC,
the parity's great.
The Big 12's a train wreck. I mean, it's just like it's like the dog's breakfast. And the SEC is now like, Georgia loses, Alabama loses, Tennessee loses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Georgia beats Texas this weekend. I mean, I don't even know what that means for the overall picture of that conference. It's crazy.
But go Horns. I gotta say, my son-in-law went to Longhorns, so I'm reluctantly becoming a Longhorn fan. But as long as they're not playing us, So, let's talk about something strange. Realizations of the season. College football is the uniter of our United States.
Yeah.
This is a strange year with politics and all this stuff going on. It's on the TV all the time, but college football unites our country.
I agree.
More than anything I've ever seen. And I didn't really appreciate it now that we're out of a group of 5 school, and now that we're in a major conference.
Yeah.
It is, and by the way, best move, maybe I should have said most valuable player of the year, David Miller, for getting us for getting us into the ACC. Because if we were in the group of 5, because the haves and the have-nots are getting further and further apart.
Oh yeah,
it's absolutely amazing.
And there's so much change still to come. It's hard to keep up with. Revenue sharing, what that means for collectives, NIL, all of that, and it's going to be something where the have-nots, like you said, they're going to be left behind. They're going to have to find different ways to manufacture, ways to be relevant, and it's just a crazy time in college football and college athletics.
If we're still in the American right now, we would be just like crying. I mean, we would be like so.
Yeah.
David Miller.
Yep.
Maybe MVP.
Yep.
Just saying. So, have we said enough?
I think so.
What else we got?
I think so. All right. How are you feeling over the next 6 games, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, I'm gonna go bold
because
I'm gonna go really bold.
We were both 9-3, right?
No, you were 8-4.
8-4. I was 8-4 when we recorded, and then I got talked into 9-3.
No, I think you were 7-5.
Don't bring me down to 7. Don't bring me down to 7.
All right, so I was 9-3. But I'm gonna make a bold statement. We're gonna win out.
Yeah. We're feeling it. We're feeling it. I think they win out too.
We're gonna win out, and it's gonna be strange because this is another thing that I'm finding strange this year. It's kind of a realization. I don't know who to pull for on any particular game on the weekend. You know, because it's like, am I pulling for Miami to win? Am I pulling for Pitt to win so we can play them undefeated, or am I pulling for Pitt to lose so they have a loss in the conference? You know, you know what I mean? It's just I find it to be like, okay, what am I pulling for Clemson or am I pulling against Clemson?
We're big Pitt fans. They're off this week, so I think TCU's off. I could be wrong. That might be the only way they can.
TCU was off last week
as well. Oh, they were. Oh, they have Utah.
They're going to lose again. They're going to lose again to Utah. God, that's you know.
Oh.
The heat in the kitchen, the blowtorch on that thin ice is just going to, which I'm loving.
Yeah. How would you not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we're talking about the rest of the year. What would your reaction be if I told you that SMU is going to maybe get College Game Day? Like what would your
I would have laughed. I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
I would have said no way. But if Pitt is undefeated, we'll have game day.
Yeah.
I think at SMU.
Bold prediction.
And if you
Not
would,
so bold, but
it would have been, and if you would have said that we may be playing in the ACC championship game and maybe have a legitimate shot of being in the college football playoffs,
yep.
I would have said you're high. I mean, I absolutely I would have. But I mean, most valuable player, Rhett Lashley, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, he really has done it. He has done it.
We'll close out with this. We were following around Rhett and the guys for ACC Media Day back in July, and we pulled up to, what was it even called? It was like a burger.
It was like a burger.
Place.
It was like a burger.
It was like a couple steps down from like Checkers or Rallies, if you're familiar. But well known in the Carolinas. I forget the name. Bumgarner might know it. But it's Rhett's driving, and what did he basically say? He said, "We'll see you December 7th. We'll come back here with the team."
He did.
So
this gal who was working behind the burger joint window and said, "Who are you? Why are you so dressed up?" And he turns to her and says, "I'm this man's security." And he was pointing at me. He goes, "I'm this man's security." And
he's the coach of SMU.
He's the coach of SMU, and I think I said, "We'll be back December 7th,"
yep.
And because it's in Charlotte, and that's where that was. It was really funny.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
That comes full circle. Things are really going to get weird around the hilltop, I think.
Very weird. Which, by the way, another most valuable player, the SMU fans.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
When you have 5,000 of your 7,000 undergraduate students coming to every game, that's huge.
It's crazy.
Huge.
Just makes it such a big atmosphere. And like you said, you're not done with the renovations, right?
No, at this point, we need to have like luxury boxes around the entire Ford Field. And the boulevard's fantastic. Most improved boulevard.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, I could go on and on.
Yep.
Anyway, we got to stop. We're going way too long here.
Yeah, people are like, "Where's my wine?"
Everybody wants to drink some more.
All right.
Cool. Podcast partner? That was good. Very fun.
Thank you for everybody coming. Appreciate you guys. Cheers.
All right. Cool. Good job.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU-on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.